What's up, y'all? I'm Zach here with my co-host, Aaron.
Hey.
You're listening to A2Z Podcast, episode 61.
Today's guest is Jefferson Fisher, Beaumont City Council candidate for Ward 2.
It's like they're trying to be too meta.
We're gonna make them an offer they can't refuse.
Much better.
Yeah. You can
buy you a drink. You can't just
But-
Well, I mean, he did pick out somebody we know.
Well, you sidestepped the question. That technology does not exist.
If this is your first time listening, thanks for checking us out. A to Z is a Southeast Texas local podcast with new episodes out weekly on all major podcast platforms.
Show notes can be found on atozpodcast.com, but you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where we post updates, clips, and extra content.
Also, don't forget about A to Z Podcast Group on Facebook. That's where we kind of dive in a little deeper. We'll share Spotify playlists and memes and all kinds of other goodies.
It's a great way to talk to us, too.
Yeah. So today we had on Jefferson Fisher. He's going to be running for Ward 2. We already said that.
Yeah, we had him on because our studio's in Ward 2, and we went to high school with him.
Yeah. Also, we did Mike Getz's episode. Mike Getz was episode 51, I want to say.
Yeah, back in October.
Yeah, back in October. So we wanted to kind of give like a fair representation of both candidates for this race. So you can kind of get a good idea of what you're looking at. If you live in Ward 2, which is most of the West End, I don't know who that's all going to apply to in this race, but you can at least get to check it out.
That's it, yeah. So listen to it and be informed when you vote.
Picture yourself in a living room, your pipe and slippers set out for you. I know you think that it ain't too far, but I hear a call of a lifetime ring. Felt the need to get up for it.
They have some eloquent stuff.
Oh, and cut out the middleman.
They have a lot of time on
Get free from the middleman. You got no time for the messenger. Got no regard for the thing that you don't understand. You got no fear of the
Famous con man
underdog.
past the bar and didn't get a
That's
loss.
why you will not
You
survive.
don't tell them, catch me if you can.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. I mean, it's unreal. I couldn't do that. My path was pretty. I knew what I wanted, but when I was in college, my sophomore year, I went to business school, and then I thought I was going to go into the music industry.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I did music business classes for a whole semester.
Oh,
Those are interesting.
It's a dark world.
Oh man,
I think
that's
like
what happened.
And that's like mostly law, isn't it? Isn't
Yeah.
that class
It was
mostly?
very, very-
it's like copyright.
Yep,
and,
it was
ownership.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the more I got into it, I was like, man, this is dog eat dog, some serious
seems like
stuff.
it.
If you look at who the actual music publishers are and who controls radio and who
I mean,
controls the artists.
payola is still a thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like
absolutely.
it's just now it's just hidden underneath like perks.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was unreal. So, and there's a band called Spoon.
That's right. He's your cousin.
Yeah.
Isn't he? Yeah.
And he's the one who
Wait.
kind of got me into it.
your cousins with Spoon.
Yeah, he's the lead singer of
Yeah.
Britt Daniels.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
one of my best friends in college, Mike Lila, that was one of his favorite bands.
is that right?
Yeah, he was like-
man, they're awesome. They're great, and they kind of reform themselves every single time.
Yeah.
But I would do ACL Fest every year I could.
Yeah.
And I would volunteer and do that whole thing, rain or shine. And he's the one who really got me into that. And he's like, well, you ought to check out. He's like, I don't know if you want to go the artist route. He's like, that's pretty rough, man. But
It's super rough,
check
yeah.
this out. And the more I learned about it, it was nuts. Like Christian radio, for example. There's usually one or two stations max wherever you go that's just Christian radio. Turns out that they're one of the most competitive
Oh, I believe
Christian
it.
industries.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
because
I
you have to
believe
think of all the artists, only that many get played on the radio.
Yeah.
So you have, Bethlehem, Hillsong, and then
Hillsong's
those-
pretty much dominating.
Oh my goodness! And then they refer to all different churches all across the U.S. And all of a sudden, that's the new song
Like the
everyone's
big,
playing.
the big thing
That's
is
the-
more publishing.
Yeah,
church
that's the
music.
PowerPoint that's getting up. That's the message that's getting spread. So the music side of it's pretty nuts. But I interned for a music agent. I did some studio recording for drums.
And this
I
is
tried to
before
do-
you went to
Yeah.
law school. Yeah.
Yeah, it was before I went to law school. But I always knew I loved law, and I did it at the same time mock trial at UT. So
You're like we're recording, by the way.
Oh, okay. Cool.
you're like third generation, right?
I think I'm fifth.
That's right. Your
Yeah,
great grandfather was.
Yeah, so my dad's an attorney. My grandfather was a DA in St. Augustine County for a long time. His father was the chief federal judge here.
Yeah.
Judge Fisher, and I bought his house when I went up for sale in Beaumont here over in Caldwood.
That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome. When I bought it, family brought some stuff back into the house, which is really
some
cool.
like heirlooms and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I'm a sucker for sentimental stuff. And then his father
like
was
old rocking
as well.
chairs. Yeah.
So they all go. It goes way back.
Way back. So you
Yeah,
had,
but
you've
back
had a
then you
connection to Beaumont for a long time then.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, the biggest connection came when he got appointed to the bench and then moved to Beaumont from Jasper. So most of the family at the time, Beaumont wasn't as big as St. Augustine and Jasper. I mean, those were some powerhouse places up there. And St. Augustine and Nacogdoches were some of the first to be, first big towns in Texas because people came east. Louisiana, like for example,
coast.
well, when you had all the French settlers coming in and the Spanish, that's why you have Natchitoches, which is
And Louisiana,
French,
yeah, right,
and then you have Nacogdoches.
sister cities.
Texas is such a weird place, man. Because then you have all the Czech and German populations out in West Texas, like
Six
Right.
Flags over Texas.
Oh, yeah.
too.
Fredericksburg. And,
I'm a huge history buff, so I love when I go to Houston, I can see the San Jacinto Monument.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people know what that is or what that even is about.
that was Texas independence, right?
Yeah, it was.
Fired
it
one
was-
shot.
Santa Ana, man.
This is a very strange area too, as well. If you want to study the history as it relates to like your profession, so before the oil boom, whenever Beaumont and Southeast Texas was, first it was a lumber like hub, right, and then it was a rice hub, and then it was an oil hub. So
Now it's crawfish hub.
Yeah, NASCAR. But before the oil hub, it was kind of a strange sort of area where it was between Spanish on Texas and between French Louisiana.
Yeah.
And there was this big like buffer zone, which is exactly where we are.
Yep.
So it was the most attractive place for nefarious characters and outlaws and ne'er-do-wellers and
The
stuff
neutral
like that.
zone.
Yeah, it was a neutral zone.
That's what Sarah Bellion talked about. We had on.
Yeah.
She's a historian. We had her on. Talked about this area a lot.
That's
so.
cool. Yeah, man.
Yeah, call
gotta
back
get
to
her
that
back.
episode, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it'd be interesting being a lawyer or a DA or a judge or anything in this area with that history.
Yeah, I mean, well, Beaumont is unique in that it is part of Texas history. Not many places in Texas can claim that.
Right.
San Antonio, obviously, Austin, obviously, but Beaumont, without the boom, I don't know if Texas would be the same.
Spindletop. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either.
I really don't.
Or the country for that matter,
So,
really.
Yeah, and most people don't even know where Beaumont kind of started, like Tevis Bluff. People don't know anything about that.
That's impressive. You know your
I
history.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I had what was it, Coach McBride, I think, in Silsbee. That's what we had, and then
that's right.
And then the famous Jerry Gore.
Jerry Gore.
Who
Yeah.
I mean, he was the king. I respected him so
We
much.
actually had some pretty good teachers in.
We
in
did.
Silsbee.
Yeah, we did.
I respected him so much, still do. But yeah, I'm a huge history buff, and I love Lincoln history. I mean, I've read almost every biography.
What about the vampire
on
books?
Abraham Lincoln? Those I've not.
They're actually pretty good.
Are they really?
They're actually pretty
sweet.
entertaining.
Oh man,
Pretty
I have to check those out.
the
But
movie
no.
too. The movie's not bad either.
Yeah, no, man, I love Lincoln history. I'm all about it. I have a painting of him in my office.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm kind of a nut about it. What he did was just unreal.
Yeah.
It was unreal. He turned all of his Republican primary opponents all into his cabinet. That's like if all the people who
kept all
ran
the
against
Democrats,
Trump, his own primary opponents.
Yeah.
So cruise to everybody else, and all of a sudden they're all out against him, hating him, and all of a sudden he says, "Hey, I need you to come into my cabinet."
Yeah.
And their cabinet meetings were some of the most contentious, knockdown dragouts, and one of them was still trying to dethrone him and work behind the scenes to knock him down. And
Well, he was a great uniter, right?
oh
So,
yeah, he was awesome. And when he turned people that were completely against him to all of a sudden when he died, they were weeping for days. They could not get over his death.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unreal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's good. I get that's isn't that kind of the cornerstone of your announcement? It was ending divisions in our community.
Well, yeah, I'm certainly not.
I'm not saying you're Lincoln or
Yeah, no, not by any means. No, man, there'll never be another. There will never be another one of those. But certainly, I think that there is a sense of division in Southeast Texas, specifically Beaumont.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is or could ever be the responsibility or on the shoulders of one single person.
Yeah.
It's a culmination
Community
of things.
effort.
Community, culture, timing, that trickles down from national politics on downward. But I don't think anybody would disagree with the statement that Beaumont has a sense of divisiveness to it.
Oh, yeah.
And in my opinion, it is our leaders that are to be peacekeepers. I think our leaders are the ones that are to build bridges. I think our leaders are the ones that are to smooth things over, not instigate, not rile up. And I mean, that's not all I'm running on, but it's certainly a cornerstone. Yeah, certainly. And I'm not saying that what I'm doing or what I'm going for is I'm the one who can unify Beaumont. That's a group effort. That's a collaboration of lots of people. Yeah.
So, what is there anything in your experience that you could kind of point to that might seem to be like the origin of the divisiveness, or just it might not be one thing, it might be multiple things, but do you think there's specific things that you could point to that you can maybe try to work against?
Well, I think obviously that's Beaumont, and if we're talking honestly and openly, race is a big issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Period. And we're going to bring that out to the front. And so there are, within each, if you want to break it down within the races, there are people who the opinions vary from hard extreme to very weak to I don't care to, what have you. And I think if you look at certain things in Beaumont, my grandfather, Judge Fisher, was part, as well as Judge Lamar, of desegregating Beaumont, desegregating
we were talking
Lamar,
about that earlier today.
He issued the order for that, and to do things that weren't popular at the time, but they were the right thing to do. And it's you see that everywhere, and it's not just unique to Beaumont or Texas or any state. But I think here recently, obviously, you cannot get over I'll put it in terms of a crisis that BISD was to the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what happened there, and I will always be the first to say with my opponent specifically, I applaud him for his involvement in exposing the problems.
Yeah.
Because they were. I think what happened there, some of those things that happened there were criminal, without a doubt. I think what happened there was corruption, without a doubt, by any measure, by any definition. But at some point you have to say, when do you stop the bleeding? When do you stop beating your chest and start championing the progress?
You talking about the stadium?
And positiveness.
Oh, sure.
No, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I think that the name, it was in the best interest of the whole community for the name to come down.
I agree too.
But my point is that aside, whatever the name on that stadium should be, I mean, they're turning into...
There's a Beaumont Memorial now?
Right.
Memorial Stadium.
Whatever they decided to change it to, it does not affect 1 second the day in and day out of the students, the teachers, the staff.
Half of them probably won't even see it. It's so far out of town.
That's exactly right.
So you're saying there's just more important things?
Yeah.
Things you could better spend your time or your energies?
I wouldn't say more important because I think those were important. I definitely think that those were important. My point is, at some point you have to say, okay, that was a particular time, a particular place. Let's go ahead and just put a lid on that jar.
Yeah.
And let's move forward. And let's go on to the things that can heal the community and find ways that we can collaborate that will actually bring some positive progress. Because right now, BISD is struggling, and they're going through some stuff,
aren't they,
like anybody else.
Aren't they? They're about to change their charter, right? They're about to change to a different form of school.
I'm not sure. They're still being overseen by the state, right?
Well, they have there's like a board of managers, board of trustees
right,
that are still watching it, and I think that's for the best right now until everything smooths over and smooths that it's ready for better things right now, because I know they're struggling.
The city council the city really don't have much of a hand in running the school system, correct? Like there's obviously like a
Right.
like a connection of like helping each other in those separate entities, but they're actually, you can't like the council can't pass anything that's going to affect BISD.
That's right.
So what would you do to work with that school district and try to foster that? You know, what can city council do to help out the school district?
Well, you're right. City council has no say in passing anything. That's up to the board of trustees. They're their own governing body, so to speak. But the city, what they can do is speak life and hope into it. They can speak positivity over it instead of just bashing it any chance that you get, to turn and say, hey, BISD is doing this. Let's all support this. I think what we can do is say, let's make a city-led recruitment program for high school graduating seniors. And those high school graduating seniors, I mean, the city is one of the biggest employers of Beaumont. We have 1,300 employees. Let's help those high school graduating seniors that are looking for jobs and we want them to stay here. Okay, then why don't we do like we did in Silsbee, like a part-time basis where you are mentoring either under a city employee or maybe whether it is a apprenticeship of some type, because not everybody goes to college.
Not everybody wants to or needs to.
That's exactly right. Like we were talking about earlier. But find ways that we can get those different groups to say, hey, we want these guys and girls to stay here. Mm-hmm. So why don't we help them with jobs that are going to give back to the community?
So like jobs within the city?
Not just, I mean, that would be great.
Or just anybody who wants to give them jobs.
That's exactly right.
So building some kind of relationship with local businesses.
Right. Yep, that's exactly right. To find where, because the local businesses that I speak to and the friends that I know that are there, they have a hard time finding a good workforce. And I think if there is a way to help transition to where high school seniors, before they even graduate, they know they're going to have a job, I mean, that's pretty big, I think.
Yeah, and we were reading a lot of your like your running points and things online earlier, and that seems to be one of them for you is population retention.
Yeah.
Retaining people that graduate high school, retaining Lamar graduates and things like that.
Right.
To grow. So would that be like your number one way to actually make that a reality, is sort of a program like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or,
I think,
or is there other things maybe that goes hand in hand with something else? I don't know.
Well, for one, as far as I know, there's no real voice of young people on the council.
Right.
And that's just the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing against any of them that are sitting up there, but
they're all over 40, I think.
They're all over 60, I think.
Yeah.
So
boy, was I wrong. Sorry, guys.
Hey, man,
I was being sweet.
You were being sweet.
I was being sweet.
I was being sweet. Just the facts, man. I could certainly be wrong, but I know most throughout the city, in the city leadership, they're all in a different generation, man. They're all on a different.
They're two generations
curve.
ahead.
Yeah. And they're not our parents' generation. They're the next.
It's not a very representative government, I would say, right?
I would agree.
I mean, I don't know I don't know the huge the layout of demographics in Beaumont as far as age, but
you're saying it's kind of pigeonholed, like it's like one little.
Well, I mean, if they're all over 60, and that doesn't they don't represent the life that they lived is completely different than the life that we each have lived. Especially with technology and how things have changed in the last 10 years.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think
they're. I mean, it's why our website, our government website, is
what it is.
Kind of garbage.
It's a little shoddy, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nothing against them, because what they do have is experience. Obviously, they've lived more. They've lived at least 20 more years than we have.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what they are dealing with are not the same things that we are dealing with now. And it's a whole different world, in my opinion.
Would you say that they're out of touch of sorts?
No, not all of them, and I wouldn't even say that they're completely out of touch. But they don't have.
They're missing the mark somewhere.
Well, just the same point that you don't know what somebody's going through till you're walking into your shoes. You don't know a perspective of something until you're sitting in that chair, and so I think we are seeing things through a different chair. We know why our generation are leaving We know why they're not staying and what they're asking for. And I think a lot of the times when you have a different generation, rather than them just guessing, I'd rather have a representative voice of people, because I want to treat our young people like an asset to drive the future. I want to see us take more of an ownership. And to our own fault, there's some young people who just don't care. They don't really want to get involved, and they don't really know how to solve it. And, it's easier just to go, let me complain for a little bit and then shrug my shoulder and say, oh, well, and then go back to, looking at my phone.
Sadly, government moves really, really slow.
It moves really slow. It doesn't matter if it's city, county, state, nation. It's all, government work is slow.
Well, there's like a bigger standing problem in Beaumont specifically, not really Southeast Texas, but even, so they're over 60, but even their generation all left Beaumont. Beaumont hasn't gotten any bigger since 1960. It's the same exact population. We've had zero growth
60
rate
years
since 1960. And it's so, if we were to take that fact, it's, yes, we're not retaining our young people now that are moving out, but even in the 60s and 70s, we weren't retaining young people. You know what I mean? Like, even their generation were leaving. So and that hasn't changed. So obviously, the city council as it stands now, at least in that one regard, I'm not trying to trash talk them in any way, but at least in that one regard, they have been failing for, if we're talking about city growth and things like that, they have been failing that front for a very long time.
Sure. I know that in my experience, I have a trouble finding young people like y'all who care.
Yeah.
And we grew up in Silsbee.
Yeah. We did. We aren't even from
we're
here.
them Silsbee boys.
Yeah. And that's hard and that's disheartening. And I know that there are young people who wish that they could, like you were talking about earlier, Zach, find people who want to start a local business to have it here. Yeah. And whatever we can do to make that happen and facilitate that, I want to see it. And in the meantime, bring a message of positivity to the city. I think what you speak over people is a powerful thing. And sometimes it is not, what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And the how matters. Yeah. It really does in every situation. So for the most part, city council, you don't have the ability like a magic wand to completely change the whole city to your own thought and whim. You vote, and then you go back into the community. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You come in, you vote, and you go back into the community. And so when you come in and you vote, that's your business. And then when you're out, why don't you generate the positive vibes that people want to see? Because if I'm looking for a new place to live, and even when I was up in Lubbock and Austin, of course I still kept up with Beaumont headlines and everything. You want to see good things happening. You want to see happiness. You want to see positivity. You want to see growth. And when we left, it was BISD, Beaumont, terribleness, like everything at once. And I think we have the opportunity to say, let's decide that we want to keep our eyes forward rather than always looking back on something that everybody agrees wasn't cool. And instead focus on something that we can all work together on. So
you would want to be pretty active in the community?
Absolutely.
Because the whole positivity thing is it's a lot of work. Well, you have to be out there.
Definitely.
Because that's the one thing about city council that I've noticed, and that, people that I talk to about these things on the forums and everything is that you don't really see them unless it's like for some opening for something. Or also with city council,
they don't really make themselves available to the public in a way that
not to us anyway.
In a way I think they could better. Right. Not saying they're doing a bad job at it. I'm just saying like they could. But they're probably not actively thinking about it or trying it. Yeah,
and you can always do something better. Mm-hmm. That's even the most technologically advanced companies like Apple and Windows. They all have system updates. Mm-hmm. They all got bug fixes for the hundreds of people they have working on it. So everything could always be better. But you're right that the whole positive message does take work. But I also think it also has to do about how you use your platform. because each one of the council members and the mayor, everybody, they, even with BISD trustees, you have a platform. It just depends on how you use it. If you use it to give a positive message, or use it to remind people of the problems of Beaumont. And it's not that you're sweeping it under the table, but it's the message that you want to spread. I mean, it's the same like the mayor's slogan. It's another great day in Beaumont. That's a positive message. That doesn't mean that there's always a great day in Beaumont.
Yeah, it doesn't mean there's no bad days.
Yeah, that doesn't mean there's no bad days.
We have hurricanes. We know there's bad days.
Yeah, man, boy, do we.
Yeah.
But that's what I'd like to see happen. I just the divisiveness breaks my heart. I want to see a community that I'll be proud to see my son and my family grow up in. Because right now, the people I talk to and I hear from, Beaumont's hurting. They're hurting because we just continue to beat the same issue over and over. And not that it doesn't deserve attention, not to say that it wasn't important at all. It was extremely important. But I want to see us move forward. I want to see a breath of fresh air. I want to see a brighter day. And I know that's going to take work. Of course it does. Anything good does. And it's important to me. It's important to my family, and that's why we moved back here. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we choose to stay. Anybody who's here, we choose to stay here because we believe in where we live. It's home.
Yeah. So okay, so we beyond like the attitude that you want to go in with, we have some of your talking points we got from your website. If we maybe touch on those, kind of expand on those a little
Whatever
bit.
you want, man. I'm just living in your world right now.
Fiscal responsibility was one of the first
Yeah.
bullet points you have on your website.
Right.
And that the two little underneath it was transparency and then updating city government technology like the website, things like that. What ideas do you have as far as implementing those things? Fiscal responsibility, for one, because we're in the middle of the whole AT&T building fiasco.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of it's been a big thing in a lot of people are talking about
I've been following it closely. Yeah.
We've all been
Yeah.
following it pretty close. So,
Well, I would say one, to be fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very red versus blue issue. You know,
I guess so. The optics. I'd just call it common sense.
That's
but yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's my point.
For sure,
Aaron.
for
I mean,
sure.
that's my point. Is to be fiscally responsible just says, "Hey, you're good at keeping your money."
Right.
And I don't think that there is only one person or one party or one group that wants to be fiscally responsible. I think we can be, of course, conservative with our money.
how I care about how I put fiscal responsibility is not saving money or doing anything like that. It's like spend it on what you said you're going to spend it on,
Right.
and spend it on things that we need, especially if it's our tax dollars. That's how I see
Instead of frivolities.
instead of frivolities or instead of things that don't need it, you know, and not just spend it on the right things, but take the time to identify things that you need to spend it on. You know, that's what I would like.
And
to
get your money's worth too.
exactly
You know, it's
bang for your buck.
it's one thing too. If
I don't
you
care if they spend my tax dollars. I just want them to spend them on
if you're
things.
spending like if you're spending like
I want
30
to see a
million,
return on it.
Yeah.
yeah.
If you're spending 30 million, that's fine. It's not inherently a bad thing if you're spending money, as long as you get your return, as long as you get your money's worth. You know, I think that's fiscal responsibility too.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
different concepts that can fit within that definition. What would you say, Aaron, is a frivolity?
a perfectly good building
What I would call a
being
frivolity
torn down.
is, well, not even just that. What I would say as a frivolity would be using taxpayer monies to buy a very large building at an exorbitant cost instead of costs that might be reduced by negotiation, and then only to, through taxpayer expense, also demolish it to get a empty lot, only in hopes of attracting a developer without a promissory in the beginning. Because the whole proposal would be different if there was someone saying, I will buy this if you do this.
Right.
But it's all on a gamble, and it seems to be a frivolity to me. You know, so that's why. And it's not just me, it's also they did a couple weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, when they did the city council meeting, there was 16 citizens that spoke about it.
I was there. Yeah.
You were there. Yeah, 15 said this is stupid.
Right.
One said it was cool, and it seems like a no-brainer to me. But I think they're going to go forward on it. You know?
What's an exorbitant sum to you?
An exorbitant sum is any money that is over a price that it could be lower.
Is that just overpaying it, or is that exorbitant?
Overpaying it. Overpaying is exorbitant. If I bought a Kit Kat bar for $6, I would say that is an exorbitant amount.
I would agree.
You know, so
If you're gonna use $6 on candy, at least get a Snickers,
yeah, exactly.
some Skittles.
Talking to you, AMC.
So it's to me when we yeah.
What? They don't make money off the tickets.
No, it's the concessions
No,
every time
yeah,
they
for
get
sure.
your time.
No, yeah. So I just mean like
Yeah.
when you're talking about an abandoned building
Right.
in a part of a city where real estate is very, very low because real estate prices are based on the neighborhood that they're in.
Of course.
You know, you need to pay at market price instead of paying over. It just seems silly.
Yeah, but what if all the buildings downtown are way over market price? So it fits in there, right?
I mean, I guess. I mean,
they're all
that's
high.
another thing too. But it just seems like you could take a break on some issue until you figure that sort of stuff out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this isn't just, it's not a very narrow issue. And I understand that
So
as
one,
well. It's
one
much,
building isn't going to change downtown.
Exactly. It's not going to change downtown. And there's other steps you could take too. I mean, but
You know, and on top of that, it's not just the hopes that somebody's going to come in. It's not just like saying we need to make this land available for that. It's that, you know, the way that they've sold it stinks. Just, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm not passing any blame or saying anybody in particular. I'm just saying the way that they have sold it stinks. Like they know that there's somebody that's going to take it. If they know that somebody's going to get that land, why don't they say it?
Exactly.
Why don't they,
That's what I mean,
if
too.
they would present
That's-
it like
yeah.
we have this person who wants to build this here, they said that we could do that. That they would do that if we did this.
and to
And
me,
then
that's
give
the
me
difference,
give me an outlook for the return we'd get on what we're going to invest in that plot of land. Yes, if they build a big multi-million-dollar hotel
Then
with
absolutely,
restaurants
yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
that's obviously going to bring economic activity to that area,
Right.
and we're going to get a return on that investment. So why don't you just tell us that?
If there was exactly
If
there was
there
a
is
plan,
something there.
if there's a plan,
Yeah.
I wouldn't see it as being a frivolity in any way.
Like the way that they've been doing is
Yeah.
they have to have this building.
It
you
just
know?
yeah.
And
No,
it
I-
seems like there is something there, but they just aren't telling us that. You know.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of your comments.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the general consensus of most people who hear about it. I think if you have, well, one, we can always Monday morning quarterback just about anything, especially those who care.
Yeah.
I think if they could redo it, they might have repackaged the message.
That's what I'm
a
saying.
little
It's
bit
like
better. It was
we
yeah,
shouldn't have to Monday morning quarterback.
That's exactly right.
So
And
that's
that's part
I
of
mean,
tra-
I guess
that-
that'd be
that's-
part of your
It's
transparency.
part of transparency.
Yeah, and that's my point.
Yeah.
And because right now, I mean, my philosophy is I'm never going to, plant my feet in the sand hard on an issue until I know all of the facts. And I don't have all of those, and I don't think anybody really has.
And we
Yeah.
we definitely don't.
And
you
yeah,
know,
I mean,
outsiders.
and
yeah.
that's kind of the
Right.
issue. Not that I don't trust their intentions, okay, because they have, I'll say they, being the city, have brought some great things to Beaumont, period. But at the same time, if you're going to expend what some might call an exorbitant sum, for example, Aaron,
some.
then you need to be able to lay out a message and lay out a plan. That means tell me what the intent is, tell me what the cost is, tell me what the plan is.
Give me a plan.
Yeah.
Sure,
what's
sure.
what's the play, coach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but I can see it from their side. If it's a real estate deal, if you lay out the whole plan and you're knowing that you're trying to get it, well, the more that you share, the more it affects anybody else who's wanting to get it.
The more it affects the value of the
Correct.
Yeah.
And so if they say, well, this is how much we want to demolish it for, no, which I've heard all kinds of different numbers.
Sure.
I mean, who
Well,
knows?
we've all heard estimates based on
Yeah, that's and that's my,
demolition estimates. Yeah.
that's right. Until I see hard data, I mean, hard data evidence is the best shape of informed choice, and I haven't seen that. I've
Yeah.
only seen vague numbers that seem to ever increase
From both sides.
From both sides.
From both sides, yeah.
And so when you have an issue where you're trying to buy land, and By the way, buying land for on behalf of cities is nothing new.
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
They do it
Yeah.
in whether it's Waco, Lubbock, Victoria, Texarkana. I mean, all these cities buy land for real estate development for their city.
But that's
Absolutely.
great.
That's great, but
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, the whole city knows what's going to be put in its place.
Right, right.
And that is the issue to where...
That's fundamentally what a proposal is.
Yes.
A proposal has something you're proposing to do. It's not open-ended. It's hey, this is what we plan on doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I would have liked to have seen a message first, because you have to have a community buy-in, meaning like a community buy into the idea, buy into the thought of it, to have the support. Now, if those 15, 16 that came to the council meeting, I mean, I applaud them for sharing their mind. That's exactly what you want to see in a city. I wish there were more people who voiced their opinion on every single issue.
Yeah, because
Big or small.
most meetings don't have anyone.
No,
maybe one,
most
maybe two.
No.
2 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Yeah, that was an anomaly.
Yeah,
yeah.
It really is.
That was really
and,
cool.
And sadly, most of the time, the council comments at the end are longer than the actual meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's I am proud of each and every one of them for speaking their voice, because they made that choice and opinion based upon whatever information they were given. Like any jury, for example, put it in my world.
Yeah.
A jury, they sit in there and they just absorb the information, and immediately they decide to take an opinion one way or another. Are you for this person or that person? The same way, people absorb their information from whatever source they can, whether it's true or not, whether it's based upon hard, accurate data or not, whether they catch it on Facebook or hear it from a friend.
Sure.
Well, they take that data and then they begin to justify their own position immediately. And so from whatever filter that goes through, they take it and then flip it to however justify their point of view. That's natural. That's normal. That's as it should be.
It's just how our brains work.
That's exactly how our brains work. And all of a sudden, they get new data and information, and then they want to say, "Well, but here's how I can discount that and then support my opinion." And that's just complete natural thought of humans. And
So you would probably want to kind of mitigate those kind of feelings that we have by putting it right out there.
Bam. Yeah.
This is every single bit of this deal.
Because right now, for the city,
because it seems like they have their cards like this.
That's the problem,
and that annoys people.
That's the perception. The perception is we know something you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. And that might
it
not
looks
be
shady. It looks shady from the outside.
It may not be that way at all.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any more insight than
we do.
Than y'all do.
And you're not in there yet. So yeah,
No.
you have,
That's exactly right. And also the issue is when you have somebody who's going out, one council member who's giving out this information, okay, that was discussed in what they would call an executive session where everything's supposed to be confidential. Then you have the other council members who cannot come forward with let's just say, any controverting numbers because that violates the executive session. And so when you have a cross of people who's one person says, well, I can't tell you the exact number, but I can tell you it's in here.
Sure.
And the other side's might be thinking, well, that's not accurate, but they can't voice that because of how they've discussed it. So I think there's got to be a way to better package issues like this. But what we were talking about right now, if you want to know the city budget, it's in a big PDF buried in the website. It's like over 280 pages long.
It's probably a mess.
Well, I mean, it's lengthy. You're gonna have to print that dude out.
So you would want to
scan it down.
Well, it says on there you want to kind of upgrade the budget website.
Well,
I want to
organize
point and click. Maybe?
I want to upgrade the whole website first of all because it's not.
I've thrown things trying to pay my water bill before.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to even find. For example, like 2 years ago, we had a light go out in our street. Okay, well, what do? I go to this. I go to the I called that and did that. Well, you need to do that through Energy. Okay, but first I tried through the city website. It took me like 15 minutes just to try and find
out you couldn't do it. There.
Yeah, to find. Sorry, we're not the ones that do that. Okay, cool. And so I think that there's a way in this day and age to have a much better website. I don't know when that last website was done, but it needs to be updated. And not only that, if you look at, for example, the state comptroller's office, and you look at the way they present their state information, It's great.
Yeah.
It's clean.
It's
yeah.
very clean.
See
You
what
can
everything
feel,
is.
you can see exactly where everything is, where the money comes from, exactly how much we have in our general fund. We're using we got about a $265 million operating budget. I mean, you should be able to see that one of our biggest costs are our city employees. You see our biggest expenditures are police, and then second to that is the fire department, and
Well,
where our funds go.
Yeah, we're not trying to stop you there, but
Yeah,
we're about 12:30 right now. I know you have things to do. I would just want to get to your last point because you brought up police, which is one of a big expenditure. It's practical policing strategies is one of the things you say on your website. So be smart on crime and then targeting the source. So you want to build on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing is, I'll say that my opponent continually kind of rah-rahs that we need more officers. Okay, and there are others in the community that feel that same. And I think the natural thought is there's crime, so you need more officers. And that's a natural thought. But my point is I have yet to see our police chief come to city council and say, I need more officers. Because the truth is they're having a hard time filling the slots that they already have. I've sat down with the police chief. I've sat down with the fire chief. I've sat down with lots of these people. And the problem is, even if they had more officers, they wouldn't even put them on patrol. They put them in the criminal investigations division. Beaumont, okay, you have about, 118?
119,000 people.
Yeah, I think the latest is about 119 or so. Yeah. On average, per our side, you should have about, per the FBI statistics, the latest national data, we have that gives you about 15 officers per 100 or per 10,000 people.
Sure.
Okay, that's about. I'll put it this way: right now, the average is 180 officers for our size. We have 260.
Yeah.
So we have a good chunk above the national average of officers in relation to our population.
So you would just say they're not being implemented.
But also, in those same statistics, does it slide on the scale based on crime statistics as well?
Yeah, I mean, we have higher crime than normal.
Sure.
That's why we have more officers than we do.
Okay.
So my point is, we'd love more officers. Yes, absolutely. Let's get them. But let's not use them as a political platform just because there's extra money, okay? In my opinion, is you cannot focus all of your resources on the effects of crime. You also have to give equal attention to the causes of crime. So do we want more officers? Yes, absolutely. But that's just plugging one hole. I mean, that is focusing on the effects. I think we also need effect on the causes.
So what would you say are the causes?
The causes, I think one chunk of it that we can control and at least mitigate is our juvenile crime. That's ages from about 12 to 18. There's a lot of it. I mean, there were several murders last year committed by kids younger than 15.
Teenagers.
Yeah. Okay.
Wasn't it that murder of that girl last year? Yeah.
Andrew Teal's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay. She was, based upon the latest DA statements, I mean, it was two 14-year-olds, man.
Yeah.
And so one way that I can see mitigate that is all the more reasons why we need to have a positive relationship with BISD, why we need to be able to help coordinate a program to address at-risk youth, to get workforce-ready members of society and put them on right paths, whether it is getting them into a job and recruitment programs, whether that means...
Well, the job and the recruitment programs it's going to benefit that for sure because they're going to have something to do.
That's exactly right. Or, of course, the city cannot endorse or sponsor it, but Young Life does a great job out in the kids in the community. There are other organizations like that, whether it's Boy Scouts, whether it's any number of groups.
Other private organizations.
That's exactly right. That all are about getting our youth on a better path. Let's, for goodness sake, let's coordinate something with that we can aim it at those youth, because that's a sad statistic in my mind, and I think
what could the city do if they can't endorse those organizations and they can't give them money or something? What would the city be able to do to help at-risk use? I know part of it is probably fixing up blighted neighborhoods, bad streets, and those kind of things. What is it, the broken windows policy?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what they did in New York in the 70s and the 80s.
I think that's something, but right now, I think the first step is just getting the people in the same room. Just getting them
asking them what they need.
That's right. I think there would be...
collecting data.
Yeah, get in the same room and let's talk. What do we do? What do you do? What can we do? Here's what we can't do, but here's what you two might be able to do. And so to at least show some type of initiative in the problems that we're facing.
Well, having the city say support people trying to do things.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to start at the root cause of it, because if you're only just saying, sometimes it's, I don't know. I'm just thinking of this right now. Like, you have some food. It doesn't matter how much salt you pour in there. I mean, it's just going to be the same food. Sometimes you just need to remake it.
Yeah.
And focus on the ingredients that you're putting in to start with. And I think that's one way to address it. I'm not saying that I have all the answers, because I know there are a lot of people who know more than I do. But I have to believe that in addition to more officers, which I am a proponent of, I don't think that is not going to be it. Because if you look at the way you speak to a police officer, they'll tell you exactly how they have 4 shifts and how they rotate and how they overlap. And if you just add 8 officers, that's not going to do next to anything.
Yeah,
if you want
to
to help
given
them,
shift, you have maybe 10 people.
Right. So
on the job.
Yeah, if you want to help them, give them 30 officers.
Well, there's many strategies.
Of course there are.
But
There's
I also
lots.
don't want to live in a city that's swarming with police officers.
Oh, yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And nothing against police officers, but
no, police officers
feel kind of weird at that point.
They're fundamental to what we do. So are the fire department and EMS and everybody else. I just know that I will not continue to push a rhetoric that drives fear and crime up to the surface, because I think at the heart of it that's what it does. Even though I agree that we need more officers, that would be great. And but I've not seen once the police chief come
and ask,
and I've never seen the council say no.
Yeah,
I've never seen that. If that's happened, then I will stand corrected. But that's just my thought on that.
Well, let's move on to something real quick. I was gonna start to ask you. So, just for everyone listening in Ward 2, that's what you're running for. You're running for City Council. In
running
Ward
for City
2.
Council, Ward 2.
Let's talk
you
about
can't
Ward
vote for him, but I can.
Yeah, I just moved from Ward 2. I don't live there anymore. But our studio's in Ward 2, so I have a little bit of an interest in there. So let's talk about that for just for a little bit. Like,
sure.
So what are some of the things that you think could stand to be improved in Ward 2? So how do you think? Let me put it this way: how do you think doing your job? What are you going to put forward to improve your ward, or what do you think it needs more?
Ward 2 makes up.
Get that map.
Oh, look at that
Big
graphic.
chunk of change. Yeah,
That's a nice
we
graphic.
try to stay good in here. This is from the city. It's not that great.
No, it's kind of
maybe
hard
that's
to find
something
out.
you could approve upon.
They have a kind of an online interactive
Yeah,
map,
but that's
it's a little rough.
It's a pain.
Yeah.
So
people ask me, they're like, "I'm on Ward 2," and I kind of have to do this calculation in my head.
Yes, because I'm seeing. So from Folsom to basically the highway, I can't really tell where that is. I think we're somewhere around here.
You see 100 right there. The eastern sign of 100 is Dallin. That goes all the way down. The northern side of 62 is Gladys.
Yep.
The east side of 62 is 23rd Street. And then at the top of 5 is over there, the old Calder Road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're dead smack in the middle right now.
62 is actually eastern border by Thomas, and then 5 is eastern border. That is 23rd.
Yeah, so this is probably the highest area of economic activity in Beaumont.
Yeah, I would say it's the heart of the city. Now, Ward 1 has Dallin and a lot of the Delaware area.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the shopping mall and everything.
More of the southern end of Ward 1. But to your point, Aaron, what does Ward 2 need? I've sat down with lots of people, and what I hear from Ward 2 folks are, one, they want to feel secure, they want to feel safe, which everybody does, and I think that has a lot to do with the message.
There's a lot of petty crime that goes on in Ward 2.
That's right.
I think there's more like car
Yep.
break-ins and burglaries in Ward 2 than all the other ones, I believe.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So they want to feel safe. So crime is a big issue to them, as it should be. But crime just isn't an issue just for Ward 2. It's for every ward.
Whole city.
And I see that they care about a return on their tax money, just like we were talking about. They want to see it rather than just feeling that they're paying it out for it to not go anywhere. So Ward 2, I would say, has some of the better roads.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over time.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're the place that most people travel than others, all the way down. And we had some old grant money, some federal money that they were able to use. I want to see us improve some of our parks, especially kind of in the Amelia. I know, and even the Caldwood area, those parks aren't that great. There's some areas of the southern ward too where the roads aren't that awesome. I've heard lots of complaints, and I've even gone out and seen sewage water that's rising, water not draining off the roads.
That's been something for a while now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's not. I'm not saying any of this is accountable to my opponent. I'm not saying that. That's just an issue of time. Okay. And so we've had hurricanes. We get lots of water. We're in Southeast Texas.
Yeah.
So, but those systems are outdated. Those systems need to be. I don't think they're going to be sustainable a long time for us. So that's what people are saying. Hey, you can put our money to that. Like, I'm okay to
Drainage.
see that. So yeah, does it back up traffic on Dallin? Yeah, but at least I know my money's going to something.
Yeah.
So I can sympathize with that and see that. So I think Ward 2 has some great things in it. I want to see our youth get more involved. I want to see us addressing crime in a smarter way rather than just harder. And I want to see fiscal responsibility, that we're getting a return on our taxes. It's more than just saying no to everything. Okay, there's more to Ward 2 than just a few things. I think it's a huge part of Ward 2 is.
I would
a huge
actually
part of
say
Beaumont.
you'll probably be one of the luckier districts because it's a
there's
pretty
been some
it's a
stuff
pretty good
added.
ward.
Yeah. The Folsom Hike and Bike Trail was added
Pretty
a
solid
few
ward.
years ago. That was
Oh, the hike and bike trail is awesome right
Yeah,
over there
yeah.
by Westbrook.
Both of them, right?
well, the
There's two of them
Dishman Hike and Bike is the one by Westbrook, and then there's the Folsom Hike and Bike, and they're both in Ward 2.
They're
No,
also
but
they're
both
also
of them.
drainage.
And that's why
projects, too.
they're some of the things I'm like the most approving upon the city, because you're killing two birds with one stone. You're allotting this land for a recreational facility, and also it's part of the drainage district.
That's exactly right.
That's all they are, is they're just big like drainage water bowls, and then they have
yeah, no, without a doubt.
multi-use facilities.
I mean,
yeah.
by and large, a council person, they only have so much control over everything.
Yeah.
Like anything else, they only have the ability to do so much. But in the meantime, control what you can control. But in the meantime, be someone that will inspire hope into a community. Because right now, when you're always, I mean, we know it, especially in the younger folks. You don't, you live in Beaumont? Oh man, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hear that narrative all the time, and it's not that bad. But if you start pushing the positive stuff of Beaumont, I think that's at least one way to address, man, the things that we want to see of, oh, cool, yeah, I've heard that's a cool place. Yeah, I saw that y'all put out this new program. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Instead of, oh man, I heard y'all's school district. Oh gosh, like it's how many times have we had this with our friends who live out of town? And that always tends to come up, because that seems to be always the thing that is
So
most
you're basically
vocal.
saying like improving the optics.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying be delusional. I'm not saying, ignore the elephant in the room. What I'm saying is that elephant has been there. It's going to continue to be worked on.
Put some makeup on the elephant.
Yeah. Well, that's one way. That's one way. But in many aspects, it absolutely deserves every attention that it needs to be solved.
But like you said earlier, the city has nothing to do with that. So you need to focus on what you can have to do.
I'm not saying they have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in my mind, the city needs to help take some ownership over the issues. Mm-hmm. And that means healing our community, whether it's through racial tensions, whether it's getting our youth involved, whether it's doing a better job of showing transparency and showing that there's no man behind the curtain. Like, people think that, like, I've been recruited. Okay, there's some people who think I've legitimately been recruited.
Oh yeah. We were
some hidden agenda.
Yeah,
okay?
we've heard things like that.
Let's address that, because
Tell me anything,
there are those rumors that you've been that's tinfoil hat, that you've been recruited
by Ames and her
by
people.
the Illuminati of Beaumont. By Becky Ames. That's
yes,
right.
the robes and everything.
What's the name?
What's
a good name for the Beaumont Illuminati?
I don't know.
Beaumonati?
I don't know.
Beaumonati. I'll have to come.
But what's the deal with that? Why do you think those things have come up? What do you think's the genesis of that? That's very strange to me.
In my personal, well, I'll tell you one that's absolutely could not be further from the truth. So the only approval that I got before I did any of this with my wife, okay, because we've been talking about it for years, and my wife is just as good of an asset. I mean, she could easily be in my place and kill it. But did I meet with the mayor? Yes. Did I meet with every council member? Yes. I mean, did I meet with 50 community leaders?
That's due diligence.
That's just called an informed choice. And honestly, I think those rumors spread because of my proponents, his followers, are so anti-AIM, so anti-Hayes, so anti-everybody else that it's like, oh, well, this guy must be a follower of somebody. This guy, he must be he's a puppet. Yeah, he's just a puppet. He's been brought in.
That's the thing is, like, I don't agree with Getz on a lot of things, like the whole hat burning shit and all things like that. But like, I actually like some of the things he does.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I would say,
it's kind of a bummer that both of y'all can't be on there,
right?
Because I like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, well,
I think Mike's role in the council is very important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he is one of the only people that sometimes I heard you say that people say no a lot, and a lot of times when everyone else is saying yes, Mike is the only person saying no.
Sure.
Whenever it seems to be very important to do.
Well, of course, and I think that's equally important.
Sure.
I mean, but he's not the only person in Beaumont who can do that. And my point is, there are some things that I've liked that he's done. Okay, I'm not running for the position. Let's be clear, I'm not running against him. I'm running for the position.
Yeah,
that he currently fills.
That's a totally different perspective from the outset. And it's not that I'm running because I've disliked every single thing that he's done, or I think he's a bad guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's some things positions that I agree with.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's my point to you earlier, that sometimes it's not about what you do, it's how you do it. I mean, anybody who's had a girlfriend or a wife, like, it's not all the time what you say, but how you say it. I mean, the how, that's why I say the how matters, because it's the how that catches the headlines.
That's how you frame things. Yeah.
It's the how that becomes the optics for everything. And so that sometimes the what gets lost when you do the how a certain way. And in that,
I feel that.
And so it gets lost.
Yeah, I have a buddy that I argue with regularly because he says that I didn't say what I meant to say right. And we'll spend a good hour arguing about
Jody makes me upset too sometimes.
Yeah. But you're right though, and he does. And Jody does have a point. I love you, Jody. But
I love you, Jody.
You don't even know him.
But he sounds great.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, we're kind of out of time.
Yeah, but I mean, I got like 5 minutes if you think of like any other. I don't know. I got all kinds of rumors that go around.
Give us your closing argument for why you should be city council.
Very quickly, kind of explain your platform that you're running on. Your platform points. Maybe some of the areas that we can improve upon. Well, you already did that, but I'll
just put it in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell, like what you're trying to give to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I'm trying to give the community is a choice. I'm trying to give them a breath of fresh air, and I've said that many times, and I'll continue to say that. I think that we need to take advantage of the energy of our youth. I want to see Beaumont move in a way that's positive. I want to see people speak of Beaumont in a positive way. I was raised on the idea that what you say matters. I mean, I was the oldest of 4 kids. I still am. But I can remember my mom sitting down and saying, hey, what you tell them matters. And so what you speak over people, whether you speak life, whether you speak positivity, if you speak positivity, people will think positively. If you speak negativity all the time, people will start to think negatively all the time because that's the narrative that they continually hear. I want to say, hey, Beaumont is not all that.
Beaumont's not sad.
Beaumont's not. I believe in the place. I want to see the community be a home that I know I can make with my family and my son. Yeah, do we have problems? Of course. Every place, every walk has its own problems, has a rocking issue. But it's just whether or not you keep walking. So, yes, I believe in being fiscally conservative. I can say no to the things we should say no to. I think a lot of that can be solved in the way that we deliver the message, because I think that's why I want to increase transparency when it comes to online.
It's a lot harder
presence.
to be negative if you have all the facts.
That's right. It's and right now people are so negative about the AT&T building because they're left in the dark on a lot of things. And just like you said, Zach, it's they feel that we have the information and we don't. And that may be true. It may not be true. I'm not one to know. But when you come out with a clear message, that can solve a lot of the problems where people think that they're not being fiscally conservative. They're just throwing the money around.
Yeah.
Well, when in truth, the numbers don't show that. I believe that crime is a big issue, especially for Ward 2, but especially the whole community. I mean, Pear Orchard cares about crime just like West Dowling does.
Yeah.
Both of them don't want to see it. Both of them want to see it go down. But I agree with more officers. I don't think that's the solution.
Yeah.
I think the solution is not to just focus on the effects, but also focus on the causes. And I think one of the causes is a lot of our youth petty crime, where people feel afraid because they don't like it when their window gets busted in. And we can address that more by opening a relationship with BISD that focus on kids that need to be workforce ready instead of being out in the streets. Give them hope. Get private organizations and apprenticeships and tech jobs that can say, hey, no, you don't want that. Come over here. And let the city be a voice to delegate, to say, hey, you two, I want y'all to have a meeting together.
What would it take for y'all to work together?
That's right. Hey,
kind of
you do this, you do that. What will it take?
Those are the type of things that don't require a vote.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Why don't you go in and meet together and see what you can do? You need anything from me, let me know. If I can be a source to get somebody else that's over here on the other side of the street in here, I'll do it. You just let me know. But to at least start gathering it rather than just sitting and then deciding to incite some issue that comes up next. I think we can take advantage of that. I think we need to speak life into our community because it's about time that we did. I want to see younger leadership get involved because right now we don't have a voice in any form that I've seen. And it's not that they're doing just because they're older that they don't know. Of course, they've lived longer, but I want to see a perspective of that because the young people, what you invest in your community is what's going to keep driving us forward. To me, I picture it like an old church. Okay, I've read that over 200 churches throughout the U.S. close every single day. And why is that? Well, because they get older and their congregation gets older. Yeah. And then the young kids who are in it, they always go to Sunday school.
They want the lights and the youth machines, and the old people don't like that.
That's right. And so the younger kids go into Sunday school and they grow up, and then they go out of high school and they graduate. And they're not coming back. And so it's still the same old people unless they're grandparents and grandkids in Sunday school. And eventually the church just starts to age out because they don't change. They don't adapt to what's going to drive a younger population because it's the young that continue to make you feel young. And I think we have great things. I love Beaumont. I love the city. I want to be here. I want to stay here. And while I'm here, I was just raised that if you don't like it, unless you're doing something about it, you don't have the right to complain about it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing something to change it, you don't have the right to complain about it. So
so you're gonna try to do something.
Yeah. Well, it's just like the people who complain at the AT&T Center. At least they have an opinion. Yeah. At least they voiced it. It may not be as informed as they like it to be, but you know what? By golly, yeah, at least they have an opinion. Yeah. And I'm in it for a better way, and I hope I earn their trust and their vote. And guys like you, making sure everybody's staying on their toes.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, yeah. I guess that's the bow. That's the
it.
bow on the dang thing. Yeah.
That's the bow on the dang thing. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man.
Sure. It was
Jefferson,
awesome.
I appreciate it, man. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely.
I haven't seen you since Miss Grisham's class.
No,
so
I know. It's just cool to see. Like here we are in Beaumont.
Yeah.
And we're all from Silsbee and seeing y'all I remember Zach in the skateboard roller skating group and you were over there asleep in Miss Grisham's class.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just here we are with these nice microphones.
Some weird studio.
That's good.
Yeah, podcast in Beaumont.
This kind of feels like Miss Grisham's class.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think I took some cues from her. I think.
Yeah.
Without knowing.
Golly, she's the mother to us all. She really is.
Shout out to
Miss Grisham.
Shout out to Miss Grisham. We love you, Miss Grisham.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
Johnny come lately, the new kid in town. Everybody loves you.
All right, we want to give a big thanks to Jefferson Fisher for coming on and saying his piece.
Yeah.
Also, remember that there's the Mike Getz episode, so you can get sort of the full picture.
Make an informed decision. And also, special shout out, as always, to our patrons on Patreon. That's Jordan, Lance, Brian, Doug, Michael, and Ben. We love you guys. Thank you so much for helping us out.
Yeah. You guys help us tremendously.
Yeah, and if you're interested in becoming a patron, head on over to patreon.com/A2ZBMT.
And our next episode is going to feature Tej Rodman. He is a Beaumont City Council candidate at large.
Which means everybody in Beaumont can vote for him, and he is our only officially endorsed.
That's right, we endorse him.
And we just want another reminder, if you have a guest or anybody that you think would be a good fit for us, or if you think you would be a good fit for the show, give us a holler, send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that, and we'll see if we can get you
Pretty open-minded,
Yeah.
So.
And thanks for listening, guys.